Well, somebody didn't switch the bank back, and I didn't notice it before I hit that button. So, this is not Pocket News, obviously. If you were just listening to the station, you just listened to Pocket News. This is the box office breakdown with me, Garret Neal, and I'm going to break down this last weekend in the domestic box office. So, that was a little bit of a misnomer there, but we'll get that fixed up before for the break. As honestly, I just fixed it, but I was just not paying attention when I did it because I didn't know because it doesn't really say. But anyway, as I said, I'm Garret, and we're gonna talk about movies because movies are fun, and I love talking about movies. And we're gonna talk about money, and who doesn't like money? And we will talk about this past weekend in the box office, domestically mostly, and then we'll talk about the new movies coming out this weekend, which is not a lot because, in case you didn't know, there's this little movie called Avengers Infinity War coming out in a couple weeks, and no big surprise, people don't want to open up the weekend before that does because it's going to take away 99% of the audience because it's releasing in over 4,000 theaters and it's projected to get like a $235 million opening right now, which is pretty good. I see. This is why I don't know. It's certainly top 5 openings of all time, but I don't know which it would be. But yeah, people don't want to do that. So there's not much coming out next weekend, but we'll talk about the ones that are. But let's talk about what happened last weekend. And Rampage opened up #1. It was a close call. There was a while there where the projections were saying that A Quiet Place was actually going to finish #1 for the second week in a row. Didn't quite happen. Rampage opened up in 4,100 theaters and brought in $35.7 million. That's still, I think, a little bit of a below what the studio would have wanted. This one released by Warner Brothers. I mean, again, only 2 more weeks until Avengers comes out. This thing's got to make a $120 production budget back plus whatever marketing was. Did make an additional $114 million worldwide in 61 markets. So it's made its production budget back, maybe not all of its budget, but I mean, especially I think that budget is crazy because I mean, I just think like Jumanji was made $90 million, and you think about the cast in that, and they shot on location in a lot of parts, and there are still some big effects scenes in that. Like Rampage, if you see Rampage, it's not a $120 million looking kind of film. Although to be fair, the creatures did look good. Oh, we didn't have any ratings for this film last week, so I wanted to let you guys know where it sat after the opening weekend. Sitting at a 6.5 on IMDb with a 45 Metascore, got a 50% Rotten Tomatoes, but an 81% audience score. I think from these DJ action movies, it's definitely going to be geared towards the audience rating. Personally, I was not a huge fan, which I thought was weird because Dwayne Johnson action movies and action movies in general, no matter how dumb they are usually pretty enjoyable for me. But the first hour 15 of this film was just too bad for me to really enjoy those last 20 minutes, which were super fun. This one did get an A- cinema score, which is wow, but we'll get into cinema score a little bit. So just even in the scope of bad action movies, this one was bad. Like there are plenty of bad action movies I enjoy that I didn't. This one, like even the Dwayne Johnson Hercules film, I would have loved to see again more than I would probably want to see Rampage again. But now I kind of want to see Rampage again because I want to know why I didn't like it as much as some other dumb action movie fans have. Is it just I've only recently over the past 9 or 10 months really developed my movie critical eye and such, and started reviewing films and studying films is for school. And I hope that hasn't like affected my ability to enjoy these kind of movies, because they're usually pretty fun. But I mean, I love Jumanji, and so now I kind of want to watch some of those older dumb Dwayne Johnson action films again, and then maybe if Rampage comes to a streaming service, or if I'm really bored, I might go see that again, and then be able to really compare the two, because I hear all these other people that I know really like dumb action movies. They're like, yeah, it was pretty fun, and I'm like, yeah, but like Hercules was better. Fast and Furious movies were way better, at least the ones with Dwayne Johnson. I mean, like all the 80s action films, not all of them, but like the Schwarzeneggers, the Stallone films are in the same genre, but they're just way more enjoyable to me. Anyway, sorry, that was a long digression, something that we usually don't have time for on this show, but as I said, there's not a whole lot to get to in the upcoming films just because Infinity War is a thing. Right now, Rampage is comparing to Jumanji as far as the opening goes. Jumanji opened second week of Star Wars The Last Jedi and brought in 36 million in... I did not write down how many theaters that was in, but it finished with a lot more than what Rampage is going to finish. Finished with 403 million, because that one just kind of exploded, and I think that also will have much stronger word of mouth than Rampage will get. And again, Infinity War is just going to throw everything off. Finished way under San Andreas, which is a similar film, has gotten similar ratings. Right now has a 6.1 on IMDb and a 43 Metascore, right around where Rampage is. And I think also Rampage will probably drop over time, because most films are kind of on the extremes when they released recently, I find. And some ones that get terrible scores might come up a little bit, and some ones that get really great scores might come down a little bit over time. Not that Rampage is getting great scores, but I think maybe this is just me trying to justify what I thought of the film, but I think the 6.5 might come down a little bit. But even San Andreas opened up to 54 million and finished with 155. Rampage might finish around there, but that would be hard. And it's definitely surprised that San Andreas opened up to that much. And it's relatively close to the Tom Cruise Mummy, which came out over the summer, which opened to a little, like, it was like 31 million. And that finished with 80 million. Rampage might get around there. I mean, obviously, Rampage certainly has better word of mouth than the Tom Cruise Mummy film. But I just don't know how Infinity War is going to affect this stuff. Because, like, it's a huge film, and it's going to suck everything up that opening weekend, but I don't know how it's going to affect things going after that. I don't know how much of an audience Rampage will hold on to, or even how much of an audience Rampage will have by its third week. Who knows? That's where things are at right now. Moving on swiftly to number 2 was A Quiet Place, which finished just under 33 million. It's just a couple $1 million underneath Rampage, which in the movie terms of things, not that much. And it added 81 theaters, had a 34% drop, pretty standard, and right now it's tracking to be the highest Paramount release since Star Trek Beyond in July of 2016, which opened to 158.8 million. And that just kind of goes to show, not that A Quiet Place isn't doing well, it's doing very well, but that goes to show even more how poorly Paramount has been doing recently. And Quiet Place also crossed over that 100 million mark this weekend in just 9 days. Pretty good, tracking way ahead of things like The Conjuring and even Split as far as domestic goes. Also, I always forget to say this at the beginning of the show, but this is all domestic from Box Office Mojo. Cinema.com. Number 3 was Truth or Dare, the newest Blumhouse production, coming in with $18 million on the weekend. This one had a B- cinema score, but the ratings right now, 37 cinema score, or not cinema score, Metascore, 4.4 on IMDb, 15% Rotten Tomatoes, and a 21% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Not sure where that B- came from. Probably should look more into how they actually calculate cinema score. But it seems to me that this is not a great film, and this will probably not hold very well next week. But it did open similar to the original Ouija, which opened to $19.8 million. So a little bit more, and that finished with around $50 million. So we'll see how Truth or Dare does next week. Coming in at number 4, we got Ready Player One in week 3. Dropped 50%, is what it is. Made $11.5 million this weekend. Right now tracking similarly with The Last Airbender and Divergent. Last Airbender finished with $131.7 million. Divergent finished with $150.9 million. And those are, that's weird. Those are not really movies you'd want to be mentioned with generally, but they did make a decent amount of money, and Ready Player One is still doing well for itself, and it's making a lot of its money, in fact, overseas, which kind of surprised me, I guess, for the film. But it is a very effects and visually driven film, so I guess that does kind of make sense. It's making about 76% of its money overseas right now, and it added another $33.8 million worldwide this week. Rounding out the top 10, we got Blockers, which dropped 47% in just its second week, which is kind of a lot, and especially considering it didn't get, I don't think it has great word of mouth, but it's not terrible, but I guess it didn't really hold on to it. Probably a lot of people that want to see that might have gone to see Truth or Dare or Rampage this weekend, and at one brought in $10.7 million, bringing its total up to $37 million total gross. So that's the top 5. But always we gotta check that per theater film average. What am I talking about? That per theater average, and the per theater average winner this week was Grace Jones, Bloodlight, and Bommy again. Probably should have looked that up. Which made $56,171 per theater. No, that was total. $18,724 per theater. There we go. In just 3 theaters. And that one's a documentary about Grace Jones, of course. And yeah, probably will expand. That one right now has a 6.1 on IMDb, 230 ratings, and a 75 on Metascore. And it doesn't really have a summary, but yeah, it's about Grace Jones and her life and such. So, interesting for some. Maybe, I always like to see and check out some of these per theater average winners, because they're usually pretty interesting films. I'm going to go see You Were Never Really Here, which was the per theater average winner last weekend. I'm going to go see that this weekend. Could have seen it this weekend, but I got lazy, unfortunately, because I'm a lazy person. But that'll wrap up what we want to talk about with last week's box office. Now we're going to be looking to the future. Echo, echo, echo. After the break. But right now, we've got to take a quick commercial. And got to tell you guys about Demon-thon. Talked about it last week, but it's still coming up. So I got to read it. And I got to tell you guys about it because it's exciting stuff, man. Demon-thon, in case you didn't know, is a 24-hour dance marathon that DePaul hosts every year. Not just to dance, but also to raise money for the Robert H. and Ann Laurie Children's Hospital. And hey, if you can't make the dance, don't worry. You can join Radio DePaul on May 4th through the 5th as we cover the entire event live from Demon-thon itself. So join us for exclusive interviews with the families affected and those who organized this amazing experience, and many more heartwarming segments that can only be found on Radio DePaul. We also urge you to donate to this great cause through links on our website, app, and on social media, because every little bit helps the families at Lurie Children's Hospital, and together we can and will make a real difference. So be sure to listen to the big event May 4th through the 5th right here on Radio DePaul, Chicago's College Connection. With that, we'll go to the break, and I'll see you guys on the other side. And that is what you should have heard at the beginning of the show. But you didn't, because I'm stupid, but hey, at least I fixed it. Look at me, improving. That's what it's all about. Welcome back to the second half of the box office breakdown. We got 2 new wide releases coming up this week. I Feel Pretty, starring Amy Schumer, and Super Troopers 2, the sequel to Super Troopers, if you haven't seen that, which I haven't, but I kind of want to, because I'm probably going to see Super Troopers 2 this weekend, but I don't really want to see Super Troopers 2 if I haven't seen Super Troopers 1. Let's start with I Feel Pretty, which is the biggest wide release of the weekend in 3,200 theaters. PG-13 comedy, as I said, featuring Amy Schumer. It's about a woman struggling with insecurity, wakes from a fall, believing she's the most beautiful and capable woman on the planet. Her new confidence empowers her to live fearlessly. But what happens when she realizes her appearance never changed? Oh my gosh, it's mind-blowing. Yeah, this one doesn't look super interesting to me, but I'll probably see it this weekend because I got to review those films, and I fell behind last weekend because I only saw one movie last weekend. I'm mad about it. This one, right now, long-range forecast domestically from Box Office Pro, sitting at $17 million, and my questionable comp for that film is Snatched, which also starred Amy Schumer. That's really the only feature film she's been the main star in outside of Trainwrecked, but of course that also had Bill Hader and LeBron James, which this does not. And that came out at a similar time, came out in May. It's about a month apart, and that opened to $19.5 million. That was also week 2 of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. This will not have anything of that caliber to compete with, but it'll I don't know. I think it'll do $17 million. I think it might do a little less because there's been. I don't think this film has very much hype around it. The trailers have not done this one very much justice. Super Troopers 2 is a R-rated comedy coming in to about 2,000 theaters this weekend. It's projected around $5 million. Got some questionable comps for this one as well. In 2001, when the original came out, it opened to $6.2 million in just under 2,000 theaters, around 1,700. Then 2004, Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle opened in 2,135 theaters. And that one opened to, I don't know, because I didn't know. I did write it down. Opened to $5.4 million. So those around those range. Super Troopers going to be obviously around the same lines as the first one. Really just kind of really goofy comedy, R-rated, hangover type stuff. A lot of the jokes that go on there, kind of like adult humor, but not really. It's it's not generally my speed, but I'm just kind of interested because one thing this film does have going for it is that Super Troopers has developed kind of a cult following to this point, and that's why they eventually made this second one so long from the first one. Still got all those original actors back, at least for those core troopers. Forgot to read the log line for this one. Here we go. When a border dispute arises between the United States and Canada, the Super Troopers are tasked with establishing a highway patrol station in the disputed area. And it's... Ooh, wow. It's listed as a comedy and a crime and a mystery. Ooh. Yeah, probably not going to focus on that point too much. I think on the high end, we got Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo. That cinematic classic opened in just over 2,000 theaters. That made around $12 million. Anything else that opened in around 2,000 theaters really made, kind of between $3 and $5 million. So I think in up to 12 million, anything else that made above 12 million was in a sizable more theaters than Super Troopers 2. So I think I would really, I can't really imagine it making that much more than that. I mean, I don't think it might make more than 5 million because again, it's got that cult following to it, and they might go see it multiple times over the first weekend. Who knows? But it'll probably not make much more than 7. I would say that's kind of the high end for that, and that's all we have for the wide releases this week. So kind of a shorter show, not as much to talk about. Have interesting as usual weekend box office next weekend, and then deep dive into Avengers: Infinity War, which will be the only wide release next weekend. No surprise because I don't really think anyone wants to compete with that because it's kind of gonna make all of the money. I think I've said how much money Avengers is gonna make. Way too much of the show. But thank you for tuning in, and hopefully you'll be back next week. I will, and hopefully I'll see you there. Have a great one, guys. Stay warm. See you later.